Hey everyone, it's Monday morning. It's July 3rd. I'm here in California. Since I last talked to you, it was actually from here, from this exact hotel room. They gave me the exact room that I came back to. But I flew off to Tampa, Florida, and then went to Boston, Massachusetts, then went to Rochester, then back to Florida and to Naples, left my car there, and just yesterday I flew back to California. I'll be here for about 11 days and meeting up with friends, and then off to Rome to meet a few friends there. And then we get on a cruise ship with Abraham Hicks for 10 or 11 days, too. We end in Barcelona, and then I take a plane to Turkey to pick up a yacht. And then we're going to be cruising the Greek islands to different places than Abraham cruise went. It's going to be a great month coming up. So I'm so excited about that. Last time we talked about loving contagiously, and there's been lots of opportunities since that last show to love contagiously. One of the things I want to mention is that just a few evenings ago, I heard from some friends of mine of the passing of a beautiful, beautiful soul. Her name was Simone, and I met her in Dubai at my very first week-long Dr. Joe Dispenza event. It was before the COVID. And so we had these teams. I think we had 50 or 60 teams, and we were the platinum geniuses. We had a team leader. After the event closed, we got together. We did this challenge, a trust fall challenge that was a lot higher than normal ones and into a net that the team held. And I'll talk about that just in a moment. But I met this young woman. Her name was Simone. She was Hungarian. And there was another Hungarian young fellow there named Gabor. The three of us kind of bonded with our Hungarian heritage. I was the least Hungarian, I think. But it was just such a pleasure to be with both of them. But Simone had just a spark to her that truly epitomizes loving contagiously. She was one of those people that had evolved so high on the consciousness level scale that she was up at the seventh level, which in whatever scale I remember, I think from Tony Robbins is the highest one. I think it's turquoise or opaque or something, but she cared about everything. Like she wouldn't step on an ant. She probably cared about the air and thoughts and everything. Just one of the most incredible, beautiful souls that I've ever met. And her story was sad in a way, happy in a way, just real in a way. And she had been struggling with cancer for the past 10 years. This is prior to our January 2020 Dr. Joe event. And her husband, she was in and out of hospitals, and her husband decided together that she was going to come to Dr. Joe, and she was going to stop all the treatments. It was just brutal on her and her body, and she didn't want that anymore. She had gotten to the point where she was going to try to heal herself with her mind, and that she was there to do whatever it took, intellectually, mind-wise, thought-wise, from the 5D to heal herself. And after she left, she went back. She and her husband lived in Australia. She contacted me. It was during the time, I think it was during my internship for my hypnosis class. And so she was one of 56 people that signed up for free hypnosis, complimentary hypnosis with HypnoRad. That's how I called myself. And her first topic was so interesting. And since then I've had a few people, but she wanted me to hypnotize her to like Dr. Joe's voice. Some people don't like his voice in some of the meditations, and back then it was quite different. It was, and you're going into the void. Not like exactly that, so I'm exaggerating, but it was a little bit weird, and some people didn't like it. So she asked me to hypnotize her into liking his voice. So that's how we started several sessions of hypnosis in California. medical hypnosis is illegal. The medical profession had actually got a law passed making hypnosis illegal to work on medical hypnosis. I know in New York it's not. I have a real good friend that does medical hypnosis super successfully there. But we can work with the permission of a doctor on pain management and a few other things. And so Simone and I started working together. About her fourth session or so, she's getting ready, and there's this little dog running around the room. And I said, Simone, I can't hypnotize you with that dog running around barking. And she said, but I don't know where to put Princeton. That was her dog's name. She said, Daniel's out for a bike ride, and this is the only room. Princeton has to stay with me. So I said, well, grab Princeton, and I'll hypnotize him to stop barking. And she said, you could do that? I said, sure. I had no clue. But while she's running around her little recliner chair, I checked online to see how do you hypnotize a dog. And it turns out the very first Google search turned out the world's foremost cat and dog hypnotherapist. And it's an instructor at HMI, the school that I was attending. And by the way, Joe Dispenza and Marissa Peer and a lot of famous hypnotherapists all graduated from there. So I looked at the article, and it had a hypnosis script on it for hypnotizing a dog. So I go, oh, okay. I just put it up on my screen about when Simone was settling in her chair and just put Princeton onto her chest. So I went through the hypnosis, exactly how it was scripted out. And the dog went out, Simone went out, and I did Hypno Rad on Princeton and Simone. The cool part was the next day, I was scrolling through my Facebook, like I never do that, right? I'm getting so bad with that. Anyway, I was scrolling through Facebook, and Simone's post came up. And she was sitting on her couch with Princeton sitting by her with his head in her lap, and she was petting it. And she just said, Saturday morning, must have been Saturday morning. Saturday morning's my worst time of the week. Daniel, that's her husband, he goes out for a 3-hour bike ride, and Princeton's barks nonstop for 3 hours. But last night, Robert Radnoti hypnotized Princeton to stop barking, and it worked. I think it's my best testimonial ever. And I'm not sure why I shared that story. It's one of the stories I had with Simone, and we have some really, really good ones. One of my favorite pictures of all time is from after the trust fall in Dubai. Simone was very, very anxious about it. And I think she went pretty much last in our group. And she got up there and she couldn't do it. She was scared. She was crying, and she would come down and go back up. And we were encouraging her. And our leader was saying, you don't have to do it if you don't want to do it. But she wanted to do it. She was very determined. She just heard the way her mind was wired, because we're all programmed, right? The way her mind was wired, she had a hard time with it. Couldn't do it for quite a while. But after she did, and we all cheered, she came off the net, and I just happened to be there, and she just kind of fell into my arms, and I just held her while she cried, and maybe I did, and some other people did, and one of the official photographers for Dr. Joe happened to be there and captured the pictures. Just one of my favorite pictures of all time. For any of those that might be listening, I posted it on my Facebook if you want to see it. Just beautiful Simone, just a beautiful, beautiful soul, and a reminder to me how to really love contagiously beyond humans to animals and trees and the sky and the air and everything, and just be that loving person. And so I honor Simone. I know that she is now in the non-physical world, and if you could hear, see, sense, touch anything, us, we all love you very, very much. And so in my normal Facebook post, I always sign off with living rad and loving contagiously. So last episode, we talked about loving contagiously. So today I'm going to talk about living rad and kind of where that came from. It's kind of interesting the way it came from because I'd been using Raditude since I think 22, 23 years old for my sign off. And all of a sudden, I'm using Living Rad and Loving Contagiously. Well, a few years ago, when I was coaching at Pepperdine, I quit my engineering job to be the coach at Pepperdine for not very much salary, but for what I thought was going to be the greatest job of my entire lifetime. And I thought, quickly, I'm going to build a championship program because that's what I do. I'm super competitive. I'm trying to not be so much, but I just am. And so, we were minimally funded, minimally scholarshiped. I had a hard time recruiting against teams that we wanted to beat, like a UCLA and Oregon, Arkansas, Wisconsin, some of the big powerhouses in cross country. And I remember 2017, it was my platinum year with Tony Robbins. And Tony, back then, there wasn't as many platinum partners as there are now. So you had a little bit of access to him. And somehow he knew my story. And he told me that the only way he could think for me to raise enough money to bring in the kind of money to scholarship our program and to fund it the way I would be to find a network marketing company that I was passionate about and that was in its early stages or pre-startup. I didn't even really know what internet marketing or network marketing or multi-level marketing was. But when he told me, I think about, 10, 20% of the people that were platinum partners somehow made all their money in network marketing. And so I said, I got to find out about this. In fact, at Life and Wealth Mastery in Fiji, I've been there about 5 times now. I've been there 5 times now, 3 times as a participant, twice as a senior leader. And I just love it. It's the best place to do. Kind of as a commercial aside, if you ever have a chance to go to Life and Wealth Mastery with Tony Robbins, go to Fiji. He's not there. It doesn't matter. They have incredible facilitators, but it's the small group. It's right around 100 plus or minus a little bit. And you can't go anywhere. You can't go to Starbucks. So you're with people for I think when I went, it was 9 days. I think it's down to 7 or 8 maybe now, but it's just the coolest place. I think I have 30 really, really good close friends from each of those 5 events. And so it's just my favorite place to go. Anyway, at that event, Tony, in one of the I think wealth mastery segments, as we were talking about diversification and things like that, he said something to the effect that everyone needs to be in at least one network marketing company as another source of income for you. And so with all that, I was going like, okay, I need to do this. I'm going to find something. I'm going to find something I'm passionate about and something that is in pre-launch. And of course, the way life works for me and for you and every other person, as long as you're vibrating high and open to seeing all the signs that are there all the time for you, Celestine prophecy people. A few weeks later, a friend of mine who I'd met, I think through my ex-wife's now, cousin, his name was Cliff Braun. We were Facebook friends, and he posted a picture of himself sipping a little espresso in Malibu. And I was living in Malibu at that time. So I sent him a note saying, hey, Cliff, I'm in Malibu. You want to go have lunch or something? And he said, nah, I can't. I'm leaving for Colombia. And it was at the end of the year, and I was just coming in or something. Anyway, we couldn't get together. So that was okay. But then a couple of days later, he sends me a note saying, hey, because this is the way the universe works, I can't leave the country. My passport has expired. I went to go get a new one, and there was some issues with it, so I've got to wait. And I called my bookkeeper, accountant, or lawyer, or whoever, and they said, "No, everything's good." And so he went down to the passport agency, and they're closed because whoever was the president at that time, must have been Trump, or maybe it was Obama. I can't remember. Anyway, whoever was the president had shut down the government for a couple of days because of budget challenges through Congress. So he couldn't get his passport, so he couldn't leave. So he sent me a note saying, "Hey, Robert, let's go have lunch." So we did. And I think it was January 5th or 6th that we had lunch here in Malibu at Marmalade. We're just chatting away. I didn't know him very well, but he mentions that because he was delayed, he was in town, and his good friend, Matt Morrow, had invited him to a brand new network marketing company that was going to be meeting on either the 6th or the 7th. My birthday's the 7th. So it was like bing, 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 a brand new pre-startup. My mind is working. And I said, "Oh, what's it about?" And he goes, "Has something to do with travel." Bing, 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 bing. Travel I'm passionate about. This company is in pre-launch travel, network marketing. Tony's telling me it's the only way I could fund my Pepperdine track team. My Celestine prophecy came into being, and I go, "Hey, can I get invited?" And he goes, "Well, this meeting, it's in Pacific Palisades at a guy named Blake Mallon's house. He's one of the co-founders, presidents of this thing, but they're only inviting what they call it, influencers." And I said, "Well, what's an influencer?" And he said, "Someone that has 300,000 followers." And he goes, "How many do you have?" And I looked and I said, "I think I have about 100. He goes, "I don't think you could go." And he goes, "Hold on, let me call Matt." So he calls Matt, and he's telling him a little bit about me. He tells him that I'm a track coach at Pepperdine. And Matt goes, "Well, he must have lots of influence then as a track coach. Go ahead and invite him." So I got invited. And the next day, I guess it was the next day, I drove up to this thing, and I'm driving in my little Mini Cooper, and it's in this gated community, and people, I could see that there's like Ferraris and Lamborghinis and all these fancy cars there, influencer kind of cars. I'm in my little red Mini Cooper, which I think is actually way cooler than all of those anyway. But I went into this thing and met some influencers. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I sat down, and Matt was on one side of me, and Cliff was on one side of me, and Blake's given this presentation about a company, a travel company called Live, L-I-V dot. And I'm listening, and I'm looking at him, and he's telling this story about growing up in Thousand Oaks or somewhere around here. And at that time, I wasn't even sure what his name was. And I'm looking at this little brochure. It says Blake Mallon. And I go, I know at Pepperdine, we had this merchandise rep. She represented Adidas and Nike and Reebok and all those people, and she would come in once or twice a year, and we would meet with her to pick out our uniforms and shoes and things like that. Her name was Alex Mallon. And I'm looking at the guy, and I go, he looks kind of like Alex does. And so I text Alex and say, "Hey, Alex, do you know this guy named Blake Mallon? I'm sitting in a presentation, and he looks like you." And she texts back right away. She goes, "Yeah, that's my brother." And she goes, "What's he doing?" I said, he's making this presentation on a company called Live. And I said, "Are you in?" She goes, "Probably. I don't really know. He signs me up all the time, and usually they're pretty good." I said, "Is he a good guy?" And she goes, "Yeah, he's a good guy." And she was a good person. I mean, like one of those people that you just know is honest and just a really cool and special person, like Simone. So anyway, I feel good about this thing. Don't know anything about anything. But after the presentation, Matt gets on his phone and he signs up in like 30 seconds. So then Cliff signs up in 30 seconds under him. So I sign up in 30 seconds under Cliff. And that starts my network marketing journey. But it's called LIV dot. And then you put whatever you want after the dot. And I put down live rad, LIV dot rad. And so that's kind of where Livin' Rad comes from a network marketing company that was travel based. And that's where I put an N later on because it's Livin' Rad. It lasted about 6 months or maybe a little bit longer, but I went on a couple trips and they were magical trips. One was to Croatia on a yacht cruise, and Matt and his wife actually came and actually I met the organizers of that yacht, and they have become my travel folks that take care of all my trips now. I did the Croatia yacht cruise in August. We did Thailand together in February, and now we've got the one in the Greek islands coming up on July 29th. I still have a couple seats. If anyone wants to join me, come. I guarantee you they are magical, and we are living rad and loving contagiously. Also did a trip to Belize with Matt. Matt actually owned an island or two in Belize. These are like way above me kind of people, but having so much fun with that. Anyway, that's where Living Rad comes from. So I talk about that because one of the things that I think is really cool, and this comes from the my first coach with Tony Robbins when I very first went to that event, the one in the movie I'm Not Your Guru. That was my very first Tony Robbins event. In fact, I didn't even really know who Tony Robbins was other than the guy that had hypnotized Jack Black in Shallow Hal. Such a great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go see it. It's pretty cool. But at that event, I was, by the end of the week, I was just into it, and I signed up for a coach, and they assigned me an incredible coach. I think he was Tony's number one coach. His name was Chad Cooper, and he worked with all the professional athletes. I think half the Major League Baseball players worked with him, and Serena Williams and Andrew Agassi and a lot of folks work with Chad. Because I was a college track coach, they put me with him too. So I was just really, really fortunate. But he liked to teach a concept that I've really taken to another level called juicy and delicious. And he thinks that you should always be looking for opportunities to improve your linguistics on how you describe yourself and where you want to go. And so juicy and delicious. And at that Life and Wealth Mastery program, actually, Chad, who wrote a book called Time Isn't the Problem, You Are, he taught a time management tool where the things that you need to do in life, you just described them in juicy and delicious words because you're more likely to do juicy and delicious kinds of things rather than boring things like, say, do your taxes or go for a run or exercise or whatever it is. And in Life and Wealth Mastery, Tony teaches a 7 step model or 7-level model of wealth mastery. So wealth mastery isn't just money mastery. It's mastering 7 different, what he calls, I think, emotions or elements. The first level is your physical body. Your second one is words and meanings and emotions. The third one is time management. The fourth is relationship. Then career and mission, finances, and finally, your spiritual and contribution life. And I started playing around with that concept of juicy and delicious. And now I've got juicy and delicious words for each of those levels that I use all the time, sort of like living rad and loving contagiously. But for my physical body, I describe myself as the Hungarian stallion. And so instead of on my calendar calling going to run or the gym, it's my Hungarian stallion time. In fact, I've got music set for each one of these levels. And for the Hungarian stallion, which I also use for my ringtone and my alarm, it is do 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 da 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 da. Anyway, you get it. It's from the movie Rocky. He was the Italian stallion. Because I'm Hungarian, it's the Hungarian stallion. It works just as well. And I remember when I've been doing some hard workouts or hard runs, and I don't really want to keep going. It does happen. I know some of you that work out, maybe you get to that point where there's a day or in the middle of it, you just don't want to keep going, right? Well, what I do is I just bring up the term Hungarian stallion. It's my juicy and delicious term for physical body. And I just start do 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 do, and my mind shifts. It's like an anchor. Everything shifts, and I'm able to get through that workout or that run and just keep going on. And so that's one where I haven't changed since the beginning. I've been the Hungarian stallion since, and it really, really works well with me. I've even got it color coded to my vibration. I did this thing called the vibrational frequency. I forget what it was, but that's kind of a cool thing too. And now I think the color might have changed to my energy center, as Joe Dispenza said, or my first chakra. I don't know. It's a cool color, and because I'm into colors anyway. So the second one is emotions and meanings, and that one's changed probably the most. And now it is divine child. And that was through some work that I did with a beautiful spiritual guide last year. Her name's Grace. And she taught this model of looking at your wounded child. So we did some wounded child work. And she said there's 5 phases of growth. And she said, when you're first born till about 2 years old, you are what she called the original child. You're full of wonderment and everything is fun. Things get taken care of. You're just that original child until somewhere around 2, or in my world, it's usually around 5, but somewhere in that range, you have a parent or teacher or coach or brother or sister or someone in the neighborhood say something that wounds you. And we get this wound. Somehow my wound was rejection. And then you develop the defensive child. So you develop a defense to that wound. So anytime I feel rejected, even for the simplest, littlest things, my defense is to shut down. So some people get angry or yell or whatever. Mine is just to be quiet. And I learned it really well from my mom, and unfortunately kept that for a good portion of my life. And that's a bummer because it cost me a lot of relationships. And I'm working through that. I've worked through that. I think actually, the defensive child comes next. And then after that, once you figure out that you need to do some work, you get to the healing child. And the healing child, probably a lot of people never even get to. It's when you become aware of your wounded child and your defensive child, and you say, I need to do something about it. You start the process of healing. And that could last a lifetime. You might never get through it. You might start and stop. I don't know. I've been in that healing child for a long, long time. And then some people, few people, the chosen people or the determined people or the lucky people or the gifted people or something, get to the final level, and that's the divine child. And the divine child is actually when you've healed that wound. I don't know if you ever heal it, but you've certainly taken a lot of steps toward healing it. And I guess it probably doesn't show up very often. But anyway, that divine child goes back to the original child. and that place of wonderment. But now you have something special and extra, and that is wisdom. So you have wisdom with wonderment. I think that's just such a beautiful place to be. The wisdom comes only from having that wound, creating a defense, healing that wound, which gives you the wisdom. And I think that's just such a beautiful place to be. So that's my juicy and delicious words for emotions and meaning of words. That divine child. It's where I aspire to be, just like I aspire to be that Hungarian stallion. The third level is, let's see, I always get these confused, whether it's relationships or whether it's time management. And I'll go with time management. Let's just say it's time management. That one's changed quite a bit too, from quantum creator to kaleidoscope to, what is it now? Now, because of the influence from Abraham Hicks, it is aligned in vortex. And I did kind of how LinkedIn, you got linked in. I did it that way. So aligned in vortex. So when I'm aligned in the vortex, when I'm on that high flying disc, and for only if you know the Abraham, do you understand some of these words? But when you're vibrating at this frequency, you're aligned with your inner being, your Holy Spirit, your source, your universe, your truth, whatever you choose to call it. When you're aligned in vortex, time management is no longer a challenge because there is no space. There is no time. Things just come to you. So that's where that has evolved and where I'm going to continue to expand. And expansion is the name of the game with all of these. So that's my juicy and delicious word for time management is aligned in vortex. Relationships is something I've been working on for quite a while. And that one's changed a few times. Right now, let's see, it's Conscious King. I think it's Conscious King because I read something that I really liked about what a Conscious King was and looked at the definition and go, okay, well, I don't do a lot of those things. Even though I do a lot of things, I have areas to grow there too. And so I'm working toward becoming a conscious king and looking for my conscious queen out there. So if you're out there, I'm looking for you. The fifth one is, probably shouldn't say this, but it's around career and mission. For a long time, it was Coach Rad. That's what the athletes called me. I use Rad, in case you didn't notice, quite a bit. And then it was Hypno Rad for a while when I was focusing on hypnosis. And now you should really keep these to yourself. I'm sharing them because maybe it'll inspire someone to come up with some juicy and delicious names for yourself. But they're more like internal kinds of things that you talk about to yourself. You don't advertise for yourself. And this is one that I probably wouldn't advertise, just like Hungarian Stallion. I wouldn't advertise that one. This one has morphed over time, and it has to do with passion and mission and things like that. And right now, again, because of my recent influence from Sadhguru, I call myself Rad Guru. I think it's kind of funny, but it's just my juicy and delicious name that I'm choosing right now. And all these have morphed over time, except for the Hungarian Stallion. And I think I have this 1-inch thick book, my life plan, that maybe I'll share next time. But just the fact that I'm thinking about working on it, I think allows me to be it. Remember the model of thinking to doing to being. And a good friend of mine, Heather Russell, actually posted on Facebook this morning about her work on being. And this is another one of those where you're just being. You're just being. I'm putting it into my cerebellum, going through the neocortex, the limbic brain to the cerebellum. That's what we teach in the Dr. Joe program that I teach. Just taught a group in Rochester, DOS Industries, and it went so well, they're going to invite me back. I'm looking forward to that. And I'll be teaching that on our yacht cruise in the Greek islands. And I've got a few more lined up. Let's see, we're going to do Vietnam, Philippines, Guadalupe, the island in the Caribbean, where my friend Sev lives, wants to partner, in Bali, in Sedona, and wherever. If you own a company and you want some good training, this isn't an advertising, but it kind of is. Reach out to me and I'll come teach our program. Change your mind, create new results. It's amazing. It's neuroscience at its finest. It's really foundational for Dr. Joe. But it is awesome, the program that we've got for companies, corporations, small companies, large companies. And I will come to you to teach your folks neuroscience to help you be a better person, to increase your profits, customer satisfaction, things like that. I guess this was a commercial, wasn't it? Anyway, Sadhguru. So in November, I ended a relationship with a beautiful, beautiful soul that, at least at that time, I didn't think we were a good vibrational match. I didn't understand. She was really into Abraham Hicks. I didn't really know who Abraham Hicks was and didn't understand a lot. So she had actually suggested I go on this inner journey, this inner spiritual journey. And my outside world has been amazing. And I thought, yeah, I need to do that. I've got to clean up and find inner joy. And one of the things that I did, I went to the bookstore. I'm going to go find inner joy, right? Whatever that means. Didn't really know. But I'm walking around the bookstore. I'm getting ready to go to my timeshare in Puerto Vallarta, and I always take books with me to read. And walking around Barnes & Noble, not sure what I'm going to find, but maybe 50 feet down, I see this book. And you know how most books, they're lined up this way so that the title is on the back of the book. This one was this way. You know, a few select books get to be that way. And it was eye level, about 50 feet away. And the title of it was Inner Engineering. I mean, it was like, I got to go see what that is. Walk straight to that book. It's by this dude named Sadhguru. I've never heard of it. But I bought it because it's a sign, right? And I started reading it before I even left. I was just mesmerized with what he spoke about. It was really about inner joy. It was about exactly what I was looking for, searching for. And I later went and participated in his 4-day workshop in Tennessee. He's got a ashram. Is that how you call it? Something like that, in the middle of Tennessee, and I went to it. Amazing place, amazing program. I also did his online version with completion. I did the completion in Tampa, so I've actually done his 4-day twice now, and it's just so cool. Anyway, I thought I'd call myself Rad Guru. And only I know that because I don't want to be that kind of person. So it's just an internal thing that I'm just sharing because I want you to find your own juicy and delicious names, even if you can't or should share it with anyone. The sixth level is finances. So when people think about wealth mastery, they usually think about finances, but it's just one of 7 there. And that one is Freebird. And that comes from really that Tony Robbins Wealth Mastery, where the goal is, for at least financially, is to be able to be so free. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want. There's more of some free things in there. And Free Bird is my favorite song by Leonard Skinner. I mean, like, it is the best rock and roll song of all time. In fact, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Elizabethtown. The coolest scene in all of movie history is in Elizabethtown. In fact, if you want to just find out what I'm talking about, you could just Google Elizabethtown Freebird scene and it'll pop up. It's so cool. So Orlando Bloom, if I remember this right, he is the son of a guy that died who was married to Susan Sarandon. She's in it too. And the girl that was in the very first Batman, I think it was the first one where they kissed upside down. Can't remember. Kirsten Dunst? Maybe that's her name. Can't remember. And Orlando Bloom almost took our dog, Honey. That's another funny story. But anyway, in this movie, they're in this big ballroom, and it's the memorial for the husband, the father, who, as I recall, he wasn't such a great guy, but they're doing a memorial for him. And so there's all these tables. There's a lot of people that came, and on one side of the ballroom, they have a cable running to the other side and a big metal bird. And at the conclusion of the people are speaking, they let this bird slowly start going down across the room. And there's a band on stage playing Freebird. You know that one? If I leave here tomorrow. That's the beginning part about when it first starts. Would you still remember me? 'Cause I'm as free as a bird now. And this bird you'll never change. Then it starts really cranking, right? And this bird's coming across, and I forget how it gets on fire through the friction or what, but all of a sudden it starts burning, and it's coming down really slowly across this ballroom, and it's so heavy that it dips down, and now it catches a tablecloth on fire, and more things are on fire, and everyone's running out of the room. The sprinklers come on, to put out the fire, but the best part is the band keeps playing. It is so cool. I've told my kids, Christina and Tom, that when I die, that scene is exactly what I want to happen at my memorial. I'd love to have it outside, but I want that scene in a ballroom where the bird comes down, it lights on fire, the whole room lights on fire, the rain sprinklers come on, and the band keeps playing Freebird. So anyway, that's my juicy and delicious word for financial freedom, for finances, the 6th level of my life plan. Living rad and loving contagiously. The final level is contribution in spiritual life, and that's changed over time too. I think it was Kingdom Man for a long time. There's a guy that wrote a book called Kingdom Man. I can't think of his name now. It's really a cool book. But more recently, I've changed it to Radiant Light, and Radiant is capital R, capital A, capital D, I think I wrote it E-N-T, but I think it's A-N-T. Radiant Light. And that's just kind of, again, juicy and delicious name for spiritual and contribution is that I want to be a light to people, and what I'm finding is you got to be a light to yourself first before you can be a light to people. You got to vibrate this high frequency, and that you light up the world. And hopefully these podcasts I'm doing will light up your world too and inspire you to live rad and love contagiously. That could be the end of this episode, but there's an 8th level that's not part of the pyramid, but I think I got it from Joe, in that he talks about 8 energy centers, and the other one's like way up here. And for those people that are into chakras and energies way more than I know, it's up there, right? Like 18 inches above you. And then there's other chakras and energy centers. But anyway, mine I call paradise, and it's spelled little p, little a, capital R, capital A, capital D, little I, little S, little E. So it's paradise. And it's that creative, magical energy, magnetic field that I'm believing that I'm creating around myself to attract amazing things into my life. And so that's my life plan model that I title Living Rad and Loving Contagiously, using all sorts of juicy and delicious names. I hope that in thinking about and listening to this podcast, it inspires you to think of maybe one or two or maybe all 7 or 8 juicy and delicious names for you. And if it does, then great. And if it doesn't, great too, because I'm just going to vibrate high and live rad while loving contagiously. That's it for today. Good episode, right? I'm off to someplace here in California, wherever you are. I hope you have a beautiful day and go live rad or whatever. Live Sally, live Karen, live Smith, live Kenny, live whatever you do. Make it special. Make it your own life plan for a magical world, and make the world your playground. Bye for now.